winning a race on just 3 tires, leaving a world champion in the dust, outclassing his rivals so badly it ruined their careers. Lewis Hamilton has done it all. Whether it's pure skill, mind games, or pulling off the impossible, Hamilton has humiliated his opponents in ways that left fans speechless. But out of all his legendary moments, one stands above the rest. So brutal, so unforgettable, that it changed Formula One forever. Let's dive into Hamilton's the last lap fake on Carlos Sainz. Formula One is a sport where milliseconds matter, where even the smallest hesitation can mean the difference between victory and defeat, and few drivers understand this better than Lewis Hamilton. Throughout his career, he has shown an uncanny ability to read his opponents, anticipate their moves, and strike at the perfect moment. But perhaps one of the most underrated displays of his genius came against Carlos Sainz in a move so slick, so perfectly executed, that it left the Ferrari driver completely outplayed. It was the final lap of a high-stakes race. Hamilton was closing in on Sainz, and the Ferrari driver knew it. The pressure was immense. One mistake, and he'd lose the position.
Advantage with the DRS. Sainz tries to force
Hamilton, however, wasn't just relying on raw speed. He was setting a trap. As they approached the braking zone, he made a subtle, dummy move, hinting that he was about to dive down the inside. Sainz took the bait, reacting instinctively and moving to defend. But that was exactly what Hamilton wanted. By forcing Sainz to commit early, Hamilton had tricked him into a compromised line, making his exit out of the corner slower. Hamilton, on the other hand, had already planned his real attack. He swept to the outside, carrying more speed, and effortlessly overtook the Ferrari before Sainz could even react. It was a masterclass in racecraft.
Between the two of them, we get Hamilton going by.
No aggressive dive bomb, no desperate lunge, just pure tactical brilliance. For Sainz, the humiliation wasn't just in losing the position, it was in how helpless he looked. A split-second decision had cost him everything, and worse yet, there was no way to fight back. In that moment, Hamilton didn't just beat Sainz, he exposed him. And as fate would have it, this wasn't just a lost battle, it marked the beginning of the end for Sainz's time at Ferrari. Not long after, he lost his seat, replaced by another driver. Perhaps Ferrari had seen what Hamilton saw that day, a driver who could be rattled, manipulated, and ultimately beaten. But as brutal as that was, it was nothing compared to what Hamilton did in one of the most treacherous races in F1 history. The Wet Weather Masterclass 2008 British GP. Rain in Formula One is the ultimate equalizer. It erases the advantages of machinery, turning races into battles of pure skill. Some drivers fear it, others tolerate it, but the greatest ones thrive in it. And when it comes to wet weather driving, few performances compared to what Lewis Hamilton did at Silverstone in 2008. In conditions that sent cars spinning like toy tops, Hamilton delivered a masterclass so dominant that it left his rivals looking like amateurs. From the moment the lights went out, chaos ensued. The rain was relentless, turning the track into a treacherous battlefield. Drivers struggled just to keep their cars pointed in the right direction. Some skidded off into the gravel, others pirouetted helplessly on the slick surface. Even seasoned veterans, world champions among them, found themselves at the mercy of the elements. It was the kind of race where survival alone was an achievement. But for Hamilton, mere survival wasn't enough. He was in a different league. While others tiptoed around corners, afraid of losing control, Hamilton attacked the track with precision and confidence. Lap after lap, he carved through the field, making overtakes look effortless.
In the midst of all that, Honda's Rubens Barrichello was...
The gap to his competitors wasn't just growing, it was multiplying. Within a few laps, it became clear he wasn't just leading, he was humiliating the entire grid. By the time he took the checkered flag, he had lapped nearly the entire field, finishing almost a full minute ahead of second place. A 1-minute gap in modern Formula One is unheard of. It wasn't just a victory, it was an annihilation. This wasn't about having the best car or the fastest straight-lining speed. This was about skill, bravery, and an almost supernatural ability to control a car in impossible conditions. And while his rivals were left shaken, searching for explanations, the truth was simple. In the rain, Hamilton was untouchable.
It was a race and a win.
But if that race proved his raw talent, his next performance proved something even more dangerous. His ability to fight back from the impossible. From P20 to victory, 2021 Brazilian G. Formula One is a sport of fine margins. A single mechanical failure, a tiny regulation breach, or a strategic misstep can turn a championship battle upside down. And in the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix, that's exactly what happened to Lewis Hamilton. What should have been a straightforward weekend turned into a nightmare. But instead of breaking under pressure, Hamilton produced one of the greatest comeback drives in F1 history. The drama started before the race even began. Hamilton had dominated qualifying, securing pole position with a blistering lap. But just hours later, disaster struck. His car failed a technical inspection due to a minor issue with the rear wing. The penalty was brutal, disqualified from qualifying and forced to start the sprint race from dead last. Most drivers would have accepted defeat, but Hamilton, he saw an opportunity. In the sprint race, he charged through the field like a man possessed, slicing past cars with clinical precision. He made up 15 places in just 24 laps, finishing 5th. A stunning recovery. But even then, the fight wasn't over. A separate grid penalty meant he would start the actual Grand Prix from 10th. The challenge was immense. His title rival, Max Verstappen, was starting at the front. With a 19-point lead in the championship, Hamilton had no choice. He had to win.
The start of the sprint, he's trying to take the lead from Verstappen.
And so, from the moment the race started, he attacked. One by one, he picked off his rivals, making overtakes in places no one thought possible. By mid-race, he had reached Verstappen. What followed was an intense duel. Verstappen defended aggressively, even forcing Hamilton off track at one point. But Hamilton remained patient, waiting for his moment. And then, in a move as calculated as it was brilliant, he faked an inside pass, tricking Verstappen into defending too early. That slight mistake was all Hamilton needed. He swept around the outside and took the lead. From P20 to P1 games,
Hamilton pulls ahead of Verstappen before they get to the...
Against the odds, against the penalties, against his fiercest rival, it was a statement, a warning, and a reminder. When Lewis Hamilton is on a mission, nothing can stop him. But as satisfying as that victory was, it wasn't his most ruthless moment. That honor belongs to what he did to his own teammate. The Alonso pit lane scandal, 2007 Hungarian GP. Formula One has always been filled with intense rivalries, but few have been as explosive as the one between Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso. The 2007 season was expected to be Alonso's year. He was the reigning two-time world champion, fresh off dominating the sport with Renault. When he joined McLaren, he expected to be the undisputed team leader. But there was just one problem. His rookie teammate, Lewis Hamilton, was no ordinary rookie. From the very first race, Hamilton proved that he wasn't there to play second fiddle. He matched Alonso's pace, challenged him for wins, and made it clear that he was just as fast, if not faster. What was supposed to be an easy championship run for Alonso turned into an all-out war within the team. By the time they arrived at the Hungarian Grand Prix, the tension had reached a boiling point. During qualifying, the battle between the two McLaren drivers was fierce. Both were in contention for pole position, and with one lap remaining, it was a straight fight. But then, something controversial happened. As Alonso pitted for fresh tires, Hamilton was waiting behind him in the pit lane, ready to do the same. But instead of leaving immediately, Alonso hesitated. He sat there for several extra seconds, blocking Hamilton and preventing him from getting out in time to complete his final lap. The result? Alonso had time for his last flying lap, improving his position, while Hamilton was left stranded, unable to make an attempt. It was a blatant move. Whether calculated or instinctual, it was designed to sabotage his own teammate. But karma works fast in Formula One. The FIA investigated the incident and handed Alonso a penalty, dropping him down the grid. Meanwhile, Hamilton, fuming from what had just happened, went into the race with a vengeance. What followed was the ultimate act of redemption. Hamilton didn't just win the race, he dominated it. Alonso, on the other hand, struggled and finished 4th. The victory wasn't just a sporting achievement, it was a power shift. It sent a clear message to McLaren, to the fans, and to Alonso himself.
Sometimes it's 10 seconds, sometimes 45 seconds.
Hamilton wasn't just a promising rookie. He was a future world champion, and no amount of mind games or dirty tactics would stop him. By the end of the season, Hamilton had finished ahead of Alonso in the championship standings, an unthinkable scenario at the start of the year. Alonso, embarrassed and frustrated, left McLaren at the end of the season. What was supposed to be his team had become Hamilton's. And while Alonso would go on to have an impressive career, he would never again be in serious contention for a world title. Meanwhile, Hamilton's dominance was just getting started. But as damaging as that moment was for Alonso, Hamilton's ability to humiliate his rivals wouldn't stop there. His career was filled with legendary moments, and for some of his competitors, they were moments they would never recover from. Hamilton's legacy and Alonso's downfall. Formula One is a sport of legacies. Some drivers carve out a career of consistency, collecting podiums and wins here and there, while others etch their names into history with dominance, drama, and unforgettable moments. Alonso was expected to be in that latter category. After winning 2 world championships back-to-back, many believed he would go on to become one of the sport's greatest legends. But that's not how things played out. Instead, it was Hamilton who would rise to that status, and ironically, it was Alonso himself who played a role in his own downfall. When Alonso left McLaren in 2007, he believed he would find success elsewhere. But instead, he spent the next decade bouncing between teams, caught in a cycle of bad career decisions and underperforming cars. Renault, Ferrari, McLaren again, none of them brought him a 3rd title. Meanwhile, Hamilton took McLaren to new heights before making a bold move to Mercedes in 2013, a move that many doubted at the time. But what followed was nothing short of historic. 7 world championships, over 100 race wins, and a reputation as one of the most dominant drivers the sport has ever seen. Every time Alonso looked back, he had to watch Hamilton breaking records, winning races, and solidifying himself as the defining driver of his generation. It's one thing to be beaten in a race. It's another thing entirely to watch your greatest rival become an all-time legend, while your own career remains stuck in a loop of what could have been. Alonso's talent was never in question, but his inability to be in the right place at the right time cost him dearly.
Definitely, it's something that I don't want to.
And in a way, that's perhaps the biggest humiliation of all, not losing on track, but losing the battle of legacies. But if Hamilton's career was filled with triumphs, it was also filled with moments that left his rivals red-faced. From psychological warfare to jaw-dropping performances, his ability to dismantle opponents has become legendary. Love him or hate him, Lewis Hamilton has never just been another driver on the grid. He has been a force of nature, a relentless competitor, and for many of his opponents, their worst nightmare. His ability to outclass, outthink, and outmaneuver those around him has led to some of the most jaw-dropping moments in F1 history. Whether it was his 3-tire victory, his wet weather dominance, or his ruthless battles with Verstappen and Alonso, Hamilton has proven time and time again that he is not just one of the greatest, but one of the most unforgiving. What makes Hamilton so unique is that his victories aren't just about speed or strategy, they're often psychological. He doesn't just beat his opponents, he breaks them. He gets inside their heads, forcing them into mistakes, making them question their own abilities. Time and time again, we've seen rivals crack under the pressure of battling Hamilton. Some lose their cool, others make reckless moves, and a few even try to fight dirty, only to realize that Hamilton is always one step ahead. Take Alonso, for example. In 2007, he expected to dominate McLaren, only to find himself outperformed by a rookie. The frustration led him to desperate tactics like blocking Hamilton in the pit lane. But instead of rattling Hamilton, it only made him stronger. Alonso's attempt to humiliate his young teammate backfired spectacularly. Hamilton won that battle, finished ahead in the championship, and forced Alonso to leave the team in disgrace. And that was just the beginning. Then there's Verstappen, Hamilton's fiercest rival in recent years. The 2021 season was one of the most intense title fights in F1 history, with both drivers pushing each other to the limit. But the difference was clear. Hamilton had been here before. He knew how to handle the pressure, how to stay composed, how to wait for the perfect moment. Even when Verstappen tried to use aggressive tactics, forcing Hamilton off track or making desperate lunges, Hamilton stayed calm. His ability to keep his head while others lost theirs has been one of his greatest weapons. And then there are the moments that go beyond individual battles races, where Hamilton's sheer dominance turned the entire grid into mere spectators. Silverstone 2008, where he lapped almost the entire field in the rain. Brazil 2021, where he went from P20 to P1 in a display of overtaking mastery. These weren't just wins, they were statements. They were the kind of performances that made his competitors shake their heads in disbelief, knowing that no matter how hard they tried, there was nothing they could do to stop him.